Hello, everyone, and welcome back to XRP Daily Brief. I'm happy to have you here once again as we explore the rapidly moving world of XRP and the major developments shaping its future. Today's update is packed with information that could deeply impact the entire crypto landscape and especially XRP, so make sure you watch all the way through. Over the past few days, there has been significant buzz surrounding the upcoming ClarityAct. Several attendees at a recent event covered by Crypto in America described the atmosphere as unusually positive, even festive, with Hill staffers, analysts, and members of the media discussing potential pathways for regulatory clarity. What stood out the most was that tentative dates were mentioned, December 17th or 18th, for the Banking Committee to officially mark up the market structure text. And based on what was shared, there seems to be more than enough bipartisan support to move it forward. 13 Republicans are reportedly ready to vote yes, along with 2 or 3 Democrats who have already voiced approval. If this momentum holds, the Clarity Act could pass out of committee before Christmas and realistically land on the president's desk by January. Why is this so important? Because no cryptocurrency benefits more from genuine regulatory clarity than XRP. Its utility-driven design, its role in institutional settlement, and its decades-long roadmap all position it perfectly for a commodity classification. But the Clarity Act also touches directly on Ripple's long-debated escrow. Ripple Labs currently holds between 38 and 40 billion XRP in timed escrow accounts, releasing up to 1 billion tokens every month. This mechanism was created to build trust and reassure the market that Ripple wouldn't suddenly flood it with supply. But ironically, this design has been used by the SEC as an argument that Ripple maintains too much control. The Clarity Act introduces a 20% cap on the amount of a token's supply that one entity can control for the asset to be considered a mature digital commodity. That means Ripple would need to reduce its holdings to around 20 billion XRP. Under natural circumstances, analysts estimate this reduction might not occur until around 2028, but regulatory pressure could accelerate the process, either through faster releases, structured over-the-counter sales, transfers to institutional partners, or even the unveiling of long-hidden agreements. This brings us to Ripple's 1,700 NDAs. There has always been speculation that significant portions of the escrow may already be pre-allocated to institutions, central banks, or strategic partners. David Schwartz once mentioned that Ripple could sell XRP even before it unlocks, meaning the escrowed XRP might technically already belong to someone else. If those NDAs confirm this, Ripple's actual control over the supply might be far lower than public numbers suggest. The Clarity Act could force many of those NDAs into the open, revealing partnerships that have been quietly in place for years. And if that happens, the entire market's perception of Ripple's influence would shift dramatically, potentially qualifying XRP as a mature commodity far sooner than expected. This ties into a topic many XRP supporters frequently discuss: the possibility of XRP becoming an ESDR, or Enhanced Special Drawing Right, used by the IMF. While this may sound far-fetched to some, there is a logical framework behind it. In the near term, between 2025 and 2026, the probability remains modest, around 5 to 10%. Global regulatory clarity would need to advance significantly first. Between 2027 and 2030, the chances rise to 20 to 30%. Especially because the IMF performs an SDR basket review in 2027, and digital assets could be included if enough countries adopt them for cross-border settlement. Beyond 2030, if tokenization expands toward the projected $10 trillion, XRP's liquidity, speed, and proven use cases place it among the most likely digital assets to be considered. At that stage, the probability climbs to over 40%. But if the Clarity Act accelerates Ripple's compliance with the 20% rule, that timeline may shift earlier, and with it, the odds. Now, some people assume Ripple will simply pass its escrow to major institutions like Canary or Franklin Templeton for their ETFs, but that is not allowed. Ripple cannot directly sell the escrow to ETF issuers. Instead, ETF issuers must source XRP from the open market. And that is where things get interesting, because the available liquidity is drying up much faster than most people realize. Current estimates show that global over-the-counter liquidity for XRP sits between 1.5 and 2.5 billion tokens. That supply acts as a buffer for institutional demand. But with ETFs now entering the picture, these reserves are being drained at an unprecedented pace. If ETFs continue absorbing around 614 million XRP per month, the upper estimate of OTC liquidity, about 2.5 billion, would vanish in roughly 4 months. The lower estimate, 1.5 billion, would disappear in just over 2 months. And that does not even factor in the mysterious dark pools of liquidity that almost nobody truly understands. Many analysts believe those pools hold far less XRP today than they once did. Once OTC supply runs out, the entire trading structure for XRP changes instantly. Market makers are forced onto public exchanges. Order books become thinner. Slippage increases dramatically. Price gaps form. Retail FOMO kicks in. Institutional algorithms begin chasing upward momentum. These are the exact dynamics observed during Bitcoin's ETF-driven surge in 2024, except XRP has a significantly smaller liquid float and historically tighter liquidity. This is why analysts like Jake Claver predicted a massive breakout near the end of this year. Even if his timing is slightly off, the underlying math and market mechanics point in the same direction. A rapid and violent upward repricing is coming. At the same time, Ripple cannot realistically reduce its holdings below 20% before the ClarityAct arrives, unless many of those NDAs contain pre-allocation agreements. If that is true, once the Act forces transparency, a wave of institutions may suddenly reveal they have been partnered with Ripple behind the scenes for years. And the timeline for that revelation is not years away. It is a matter of weeks to a few months at most. Meanwhile, international adoption continues to move faster than in the United States. German media has already begun providing live updates on new XRP spot ETFs. Japan and Korea frequently discuss XRP on mainstream channels. Even Christine Lagarde has mentioned XRP and XLM publicly in the past. But in the United States, the narrative remains dominated by Bitcoin, with almost no attention given to XRP. That silence will not last forever, especially as XRP positions itself to challenge the #1 spot. Recently, a listed Japanese corporation, Allplus, officially added XRP to its treasury strategy. They plan to acquire and hold XRP alongside Bitcoin as a long-term asset for diversification and yield-based income. This follows a growing trend of companies quietly integrating XRP into their treasury reserves, which further reduces the available supply on the open market. Another major factor is decentralized finance. Bill Koch from EZE explained that supply shock occurs when assets are removed from circulation, and DeFi does exactly that. Liquidity pools, collateralized lending, yield mechanisms, and protocols like FXRP on the Flare network are locking away enormous amounts of XRP. Institutions seeking yield will only accelerate this trend. As more XRP is taken off exchanges and held in yield-generating strategies, the pressure on open market supply intensifies even further. When you combine the ClarityAct, the shrinking escrow influence, the rapid drain of OTC liquidity, global institutional adoption, DeFi absorption, treasury accumulation, and the rise of tokenization, all signs point toward an inevitable supply shock. And when that happens, XRP's price movement will likely be unlike anything we've seen before. This is why positioning early is so important. The window is not staying open for long. For now, the best thing you can do is stay patient, stay positive, and be prepared for what's coming. Thank you all for watching XRP Daily Brief. I appreciate every one of you, and I'll see you in the next update. Have a great night.